is the place where it all happens, the Post Amerikan.
And these are the people that make it
These are the people that make it happen.
This is how you're supposed to do it.
There's just a situation, the war, going on. And those early years, starting the paper in the early years, I mean, that was Nixon, Cambodia bombing. Okay, we've got to transform agriculture. We've got to stop the war machine. There's other things. Just everything has to be changed.
Socrates corrupted the youth of Athens by showing them that what they thought they knew, they didn't know. At any rate, we decided to do the paper. And how did it change?
I'm almost certain the first paper, we just had all these bundles. We stood on the quad by the student union, just gave them out. Free underground newspaper, free underground news. Get it right here. This is the underground newspaper. I mean, everybody to walk by says, oh, wow, and grabbed one. It was like that was the time.
I thought I knew what the world was all about, but I didn't know at all. And that made me really mad. It made me want to find out more.
We, being my brother and I, had been raised on this incredible paranoia that as left-wing Jews, atheists, the only two places that were safe to be in America were New York and San Francisco.
I've lived here all my life. And how did we become the state with the most nuclear power plants and toxic waste dumps in the country?
We hit every demonstration that we could possibly hit in Illinois.
So here I was going off to Normal, Illinois. The name alone was frightening.
Look again if you listen to the city fathers, the pantograph, the civic boosters, and the phony speechmakers. You would think we lived in a 1930s Hollywood set. But let's look behind the scenes. Each month since April 1972, the Post Amerikan has been denting the serene facade, printing the embarrassing truths the city fathers would rather overlook. It tells what they were trying to do.
We wanted the activism that the Post Amerikan was meant to encourage and reinforce to also be activism of people that weren't going to the university.
The guy was being accused of taking in prisoners, beating them, putting them in a black box, like a solitary confinement kind of thing, a box.
We would interview people and we would tell the story and we would print the story and then we would distribute the paper and more people would come forward and say, oh yeah, I read that article, well, let me tell you what happened to me.
To get rid of him, to get rid of that torture he was doing was important for the community. And it wouldn't have happened if the Post hadn't made it public.
I was an activist for marijuana.
4 cops on me, and I tried really hard just to make myself as heavy as possible, and then connected years. And it took them a hell of a lot to get me out of there. They had to drag me hand and foot, 4 of them, to get me out of there. So I was proud of that moment.
And this was when the Post Amerikan had just bailed us out of jail. Hi, I'm Ms. Hippie. I am the advice columnist for the Post Amerikan. That's Post Amerikan.
The message inside went something like, legalize it. Sensimilla. Sensimilla is a herb.
I hear the train coming, it's rolling around the bend, and I ain't seen the sunshine since I don't know when. I stuck the post of prison, and time keeps dragging on.
Defining issues were in print, for the Bloomington normal public. Like, we talked about AIDS, we talked about apartheid, and they weren't real to like the pantograph reading public.
And sometimes the covers were very controversial. The one cover I can think of that was the most controversial was this one where there's Joseph and Mary's leaving an abortion clinic. And Mary looks at Joseph and she says, well, you said it wasn't yours. And that was a lot of controversy related to that one.
That is exactly the kind of humor and sense that everything would have. Yeah, if you could bring it to some absurd statement, bring authority into absurdity, well then that's like the icing on the cake.
In terms of irreverent, we were always willing to push the envelope. In fact, some of us in the Post Amerikan were even offended, by it. But we were willing to do that because we wanted people to question everything that they'd ever been told before.
One of mine was on abortion, and it was a cover that maybe lost us a couple machines because it had the word abortion in gigantic letters above the fold.
What do you want? When do you want it? Louder. What do you want? When do you want it? The ERA. It was 60 years ago an amendment was proposed to make the law state men and women equal.
It was a great, great creative movement of lots and lots of women expressing themselves and their yearning to be equal.
We had people, friends dying, and they couldn't figure out what they were dying from, and finally, they put a name on it that it was AIDS,
The AIDS epidemic was covered in the Post Amerikan before anyone even used the word AIDS.
The Central Illinois chapter of ACT UP emerged in a lot of ways of trying to figure out how do we get this information and getting people to take HIV and AIDS seriously in a town like Bloomington Normal, where there was this misconception that this isn't here in town, it's not our problem, this is only a big city problem.
When I became active in volunteer groups in the community, they were someone who we knew would give us a good article if we sent them even as much as a press release on an event. They would come back and give us more column inches, and so that was useful to the HIV community when I was doing that kind of volunteerism.
And the Post Amerikan was one of the publications that really helped me find my community in Bloomington Normal. They listed the bars. There was a columnist that wrote columns about things that were happening in the community that were of interest to the LGBTQ+ community. So for a lot of us, it was a lifeline that really helped us get situated in the community and helped us feel not so alone and so isolated.
So for me, what was so great is that it forced me to see those connections between what is a relationship between being an openly queer man who is also committed to AIDS activists, who's also committed to abortion care and a woman's right to choose abortion, and environmental issues. Like when you're in Bloomington Normal, you can certainly feel a stronger commitment to one of those causes, but they're all related. And the Post Amerikan was kind of the space where you saw that those things were all related.
It did change my life.
I would not be the person I am today if it weren't for those people that I worked with who had been in Bloomington Normal, working on that paper, working in the community for so many years.
This involvement in the movement exposed me to things I ordinarily might not have been exposed to as I read books, papers, articles that taught me about all kinds of things in the world.
But I think that there's just no way that had the Post not had that long history in that town, there's no way that town would be the same today. It's not just like the paper stopped existing and then the history of the paper and all of its influence.
I know that all of that political action had to make a difference.
If you say, yeah, we started the rape victim advocacy program in our community years ago on an all-volunteer basis, but you look at it now and it's a statewide hotline, and it's all these things, and it's hard to imagine what that looked like when it was just a handful of people in a room going, we need this thing, how can we do it?
We changed attitudes of administrators, people who make the decisions about what the town is going to be like. And that's a big deal.
So this is part of who we are as a community. And there are dozens and dozens of people who had these thoughts, had these ideas, and will quietly pass them along. So the notion of radicalism is not foreign territory to people who work hard on what at the point that they're expressing this radical change, who are working hard on this, is not an unusual aspect of the life of McLean County. So there is a very long kind of story here. The Post Amerikan fits into that story very, very well. And the progressive nature of the city fits into that very, very well.
When I look at the trajectory of my own life and what I've gotten involved in, I think what the Newman Center and Father Kelly and the Post Amerikan did for me was learn how to listen to diverse voices and respect diverse people. And that the more we create spaces and create an environment where multiple voices can be heard and thrived, then we make a better community.